During the blackout, every apartment window disappeared into darkness. Only one rooftop still glowed above the silent neighborhood. Hundreds climbed the stairs carrying bowls, water, and lanterns. They were not escaping the building. They were searching for Gabriel. Because the garden keeping everyone alive had lost its gardener. 6 weeks earlier, the rooftop was only cracked concrete and rust. Gabriel worked downstairs as the building's quiet maintenance man. He repaired pipes, lamps, locks, and things nobody thanked. After every shift, he carried discarded containers toward the roof. Old buckets became planters and broken drawers became garden beds. He filled them with soil gathered one small bag at a time. Then he planted tomatoes, beans, herbs, peppers, and sunflowers. Neighbors laughed at vegetables growing above 12 floors of traffic. Gabriel only checked the leaves and continued watering. He believed empty places changed when someone returned every day. One evening, Zoe counted coins outside the grocery store. Her son Noah pretended not to notice the empty shopping bag. She could afford rice, but nothing fresh for dinner. Gabriel passed them carrying a basket of rooftop tomatoes. He placed 3 tomatoes inside Noah's backpack without explanation. Zoe tried returning them, embarrassed by the unexpected kindness. Gabriel asked Noah whether he knew how seeds became food. The question replaced embarrassment with immediate curiosity. Noah followed him upstairs carrying 1 small tomato. On the roof, Gabriel opened the fruit and saved its seeds. He gave Noah 1 pot, 1 spoon, and 1 responsibility. Water this every evening, even before anything appears. Noah returned daily to stare at completely empty soil. On the 9th day, 1 green hook finally broke through. Noah shouted loudly enough for several windows to open. Zoe began bringing vegetable scraps for Gabriel's compost bucket. The 3 strangers slowly stopped feeling like strangers. Then Camila arrived after delivering packages through extreme heat. Her bicycle chain was fine, but her hands would not stop shaking. Gabriel guided her beneath a shade cloth near the garden. He gave her water flavored with mint and sliced cucumber. Camila insisted she only needed 2 minutes before leaving. She slept in the chair for almost 40. Gabriel guarded her bicycle and redirected every curious visitor. When Camila woke, the city no longer seemed entirely hostile. She returned next week carrying wooden crates from a warehouse. Those crates became new beds for lettuce and climbing beans. Mr. Park lived alone on the 11th floor. He had stopped leaving his apartment after his wife died. Every afternoon, he watched the rooftop sunflowers from behind glass. Gabriel noticed and placed 1 chair beside the tallest flower. Mr. Park refused the invitation for 3 straight days. On the 4th, he climbed the stairs holding his wife's teacup. He sat without speaking while bees moved between yellow petals. The following evening, he brought a 2nd cup for Gabriel. Soon, Mr. Park began recording rainfall and watering time. The garden gave his mornings somewhere specific to begin. Ava, a teenage student, discovered the roof during exam week. Her apartment was crowded, noisy, and unbearably hot. Gabriel placed a small desk beneath the bean vines. Ava studied there while leaves moved above her notebooks. Noah practiced spelling beside her growing tomato plant. Mr. Park tested them both using homemade question cards. Camila delivered discarded solar lanterns from a closed shop. Zoe sewed torn fabric into wide panels. The rooftop changed from a garden into a shared room. People brought chairs, jars, seeds, and family recipes. One resident taught pruning while another repaired the rain barrels. Children painted stones and placed them around new seedlings. Nobody had planned a community, but routine quietly created one. Gabriel kept a small notebook inside the rooftop tool cabinet. He marked which residents needed medicine, help, or daily visits. No one knew the garden was also an emergency map. Then building manager Cole arrived with a structural inspector. They measured the roof, photographed cracks, and examined every planter. Cole announced the garden would close during upcoming renovations. The roof needed clearing before the month's hottest week. Neighbors argued, but Gabriel asked everyone to remain calm. He promised to move each plant somewhere safe. That night, he watered longer than usual beneath a red sunset. Noah found him staring at one old photograph inside the cabin. Gabriel closed the notebook before the boy could see more. 3 days later, the heat became dangerous across the city. Pavement softened, trains slowed, and hospital alerts filled radio. Inside the building, fans pushed only warmer air. Gabriel opened the rooftop early and stretched every shade panel. He placed water stations beside the stairwell and elevator. Zoe checked elderly residents while Camila delivered extra ice. Mr. Park recorded temperatures and knocked on silent door. Ava created a list of children, pets, and people living alone. The garden became useful before anyone understood how necessary. At sunset, the entire electrical grid suddenly failed. Elevators stopped between floors and water pumps fell silent. Dark apartments trapped heat like sealed boxes. Phone batteries began dying while emergency lines remained busy. Gabriel opened the rooftop gate and rang an old handbell. Residents followed the sound upward through dark stairwells. Solar lanterns illuminated vegetables, water barrels, and shaded tables. Zoe distributed tomatoes, cucumbers, and herbs with. Camila carried water downstairs to residents unable to climb. Ava organized children near the coolest wall. Mr. Park used Gabriel's notebook to check every apartment. One name had been circled twice beside the 12th floor. It was Gabriel's own apartment, but he was nowhere upstairs. Noah remembered seeing him enter the stairwell with a water container. The neighbors spread across 12 floors searching together. They found Gabriel collapsed beside a stuck elevator door. His water container remained full because he had saved it for others. Zoe cooled him while Camilla ran for the first aid kit. Noah held Gabriel's hand and described his first tomato sprout. Gabriel finally opened his eyes beneath the emergency lantern. Back on the roof, residents refused to let him work. For the first time, Gabriel sat while everyone else served him. Then Noah opened the cabinet and found the old photograph. It showed Gabriel beside his wife on the same empty roof. She had died during a blackout years earlier, alone downstairs. No neighbor had known she needed medicine or help. Gabriel built the garden so residents would learn every door. The food was important, but connection was the real harvest. Manager Cole silently removed the rooftop closure notice. Renovation plans changed to protect the garden and strengthen the roof. At sunrise, power returned across the exhausted neighborhood. Yet nobody hurried back downstairs or closed their doors. They shared breakfast beneath sunflowers while Noah picked his first tomato, and Gabriel's living emergency map became the heart of the building. Before sunrise, hundreds walked toward the dark cobbler's shop. Inside believed his final day had passed unnoticed. Every repaired pair carried one tiny blue stitch underneath. That blue stitch had quietly connected countless grateful lives. Weeks earlier, the little shop still opened each morning. Elias unlocked his shop before neighboring windows showed light. He arranged every tool like setting a careful table. Every repair ended with one small blue thread signature underneath. Customers paid whatever they could, sometimes nothing at all. But keeping the aging shop alive grew increasingly difficult. His coins dwindled while every repair still needed materials. Even basic supplies slowly disappeared from his wooden shelves. One faded photographed why his shop existed. He promised worn shoes would never cause anyone shame. That morning, Jamie's red sneaker split before reaching school. He hid the damage before nearby children could notice. Jamie sat alone, fearing lateness, laughter, shame, and embarrassment. Elias noticed him and welcomed him into the warmth. Jamie showed empty pockets before Elias mentioned any payment. Elias closed his hand and asked only for patience. He cleaned Jamie's sneaker as carefully as something new. Then blue thread sealed the loosened soles securely together. Jamie tested it and his lost confidence instantly returned. He offered one marble. Elias accepted it like treasure. Jamie ran to school wearing confidence with repaired shoes. That afternoon, Nurse Rosa arrived exhausted, her heels split. Seeing the payment bowl, she quietly began turning away. Elias tapped the window before exhaustion carried her onward. Rosa sat silently, too tired to explain her journey. Elias served warm tea before beginning the needed repair. While Rosa slept, he worked without disturbing her peace. He strengthened her heel, finishing again with blue thread. When Rosa paid, Elias protected the meal she needed. She returned to work standing straighter, calmer, and stronger. That evening, Daniel's work boot split during final delivery. Cold rain filled it, but unfinished work still waited. Elias brought Daniel and his cart safely beneath shelter. Daniel feared missing work could cost his delivery route. Elias used his strongest remaining leather for Daniel's patch. He reinforced the boot for many more difficult streets. Daniel tested it, Elias used his final patch. Elias sent him onward again before gratitude became obligation. Next morning, Clara brought Ava and her damaged shoe. Her coins could buy either dinner or the repair. Elias returned them before Clara sacrificed her family's meal. Ava watched Elias inspect her shoe with complete seriousness. He cut leather from his own shoe for hers. Blue thread closed the tear and eased Clara's worry. Ava walked carefully until bright joy replaced her nervousness. She offered Elias a flower drawing as heartfelt payment. He displayed it beside Jamie's marble like priceless treasure. Soon, stories about the quiet cobbler spread across neighborhoods. May brought yellow flowers, remembering her repaired winter boots. Rosa returned with warm tea and sandwiches for Elias. Daniel delivered donated leather gathered from warehouses across town. Jamie swept the shop after school without being asked. Clara cleaned windows while Ava dusted the lower shelves. Neighbors brought supplies, food, and tools without calling repayment. Blue thread footprints symbolically connected strangers throughout the whole neighborhood. Elias welcomed everyone, hiding how exhausted he had become. At night, decades of work left his hands trembling. One evening, blue thread slipped repeatedly from his fingers. Elias finally wondered whether he could continue repairing shoes. Meanwhile, hidden debts grew far beyond anyone else's knowledge. Then Rowan arrived carrying the decision Elias feared most. The building was sold, forcing the shop to close. Elias accepted quietly, making uncomfortable Rowan slowly look away. Jamie entered. Elias hid the notice beneath his apron. He kept working so no final customer felt abandoned. Rosa noticed trembling hands, but Elias blamed the cold. After closing, Elias prepared to leave his oldest friend. He packed every small gift before any expensive tool. Elias closed the shutters, believing everyone would move on. Morning revealed a wooden barrier, replacing the welcoming doorway. Jamie arrived first and froze before the sealed entrance. Soon, familiar faces gathered anxiously outside the darkened shop. Jamie discovered the hidden notice Elias kept from them. Daniel asked how many lives Elias had quietly supported. Rosa noticed blue thread still holding her heel together. One by one, everyone revealed the same blue signature. It marked school shoes, work boots, and forgotten pairs. May carried Elias's story carefully from doorway to doorway. Daniel showed workers the patch that saved his route. Rosa told co-workers, once let her rest. Jamie and Ava showed families dignity begins with shoes. Clara learned nearly every nearby street held Elias's. By evening, blue thread paths led everyone toward the shop. Across town, Elias alone inside a rinse it. He wondered whether quiet kindness ever leaves lasting traces. Then distant lanterns began moving slowly through heavy rain. Elias saw hundreds walking together toward the old shop. He carried his box and followed the lanterns home. The crowd lined repaired shoes along roads as testimony. Jamie raised his sneaker before Rowan and the keys. Others raised repaired shoes, each holding different personal memories. Rowan expected anger but encountered deep, overwhelming gratitude instead. When Elias arrived, the street opened a path forward. Jamie embraced him, proving the shop still remained alive. Rosa returned his apron. Daniel gently returned his hammer. Ava returned her drawing among hundreds of living memories. Rowan saw blue thread, then froze beside the photograph. The frightened child in Elias's photograph was young Rowan. Decades earlier, Rowan hid torn shoes beneath the rain. Young Elias repaired them freely, creating his blue signature. That kindness let Rowan enter school free from humiliation. Rowan forgot Elias's face, but completely remembered the feeling. He removed the barrier and unlocked the door himself. Rowan returned the keys as repayment for old kindness. Neighbors entered immediately, ready to rebuild Elias's legacy together. Carpenters strengthened roofs while families restored every worn surface. Rosa added a chair so could finally rest. Daniel built a rolling table for gentler seated work. May filled windows while Clara restocked leather and thread. Jamie and Ava restored their treasures beside Elias's lamp. Rowan placed a shared bowl where lonely payment stood. Elias realized the shop no longer depended on him. Jamie brought another child whose green shoes were separating. Elias guided Jamie's hands, turning kindness into practical skill. Jamie's first blue stitch connected another hopeful young life. Kindness returned through everyone still walking because of Elias. At dawn, hundreds filled the station square carrying framed photographs. They formed a silent circle around one empty wooden chair. An old camera rested there beside an unwound blue ribbon. The photographer behind every picture was nowhere to be found. No one knew whether Adrian would see their faces again. 1 month earlier, Adrian opened his tiny station kiosk before sunrise. He cleaned every lens before touching his first cup of tea. Then he tied one blue ribbon around a simple wooden frame. At sunset, he offered one free family portrait to anyone. He asked no questions about money, clothing, or circumstance. People only needed to say they had no picture together. Adrian always remained behind the camera, never inside the frame. One empty frame had hung behind his desk for years. Most visitors assumed it was waiting for another customer. It was actually waiting for the family Adrian believed he lacked. One afternoon, Maya arrived holding her grandmother Elena's trembling hand. Elena had begun forgetting names, rooms, and familiar streets. She could not remember why Maya brought her there. But she still carried her old silver dancing shoes. Adrian noticed a faded Umbrum photograph inside his bag. He dimmed the station lights and played a gentle melody. Then he created a tiny ballroom beside the ticket windows. Elena straightened slowly as her body remembered the dance. Maya stepped forward and copied her grandmother's old pose. For several seconds, Elena looked completely present again. Adrian pressed the shutter before the memory could disappear. Moments later, Elena forgot why everyone was smiling. She asked Maya who the kind photographer was. Maya turned away, hiding tears behind one shaking hand. Adrian printed the portrait and placed it before Elena. Elena touched the image and studied her own joyful face. "That woman looks happy," she whispered, and Maya answered, "She is." Later, the portrait remained beside Elena's bed when names vanished. During another storm, Marcus and Theo entered from opposite doors. Each brother carried one half of the same torn photograph. They had not spoken since their father's funeral 3 years earlier. Both wanted restoration, but neither would stand beside the other. Adrian placed the torn halves together beneath a warm lamp. The photograph showed two boys holding one enormous paper kite. Without speaking, Adrian repaired the tear with transparent tissue. Then he placed the unfinished frame between the two brothers. They argued about which boy had released the kite first. One accidental laugh escaped before either could stop it. For the first time in years, they looked at each other. Adrian captured the moment before pride returned to their faces. The new portrait showed two grown brothers smiling like children. They left the station beneath one umbrella, still talking. The repaired portrait later replaced both broken halves at home. Near midnight, a hospital nurse called Adrian from the maternity ward. A premature baby was finally strong enough to leave the hospital. Her parents had spent every saving on months of treatment. They owned hundreds of worries, but no family photograph. Adrian disinfected his camera and entered the quiet hospital room. Daniel stood nervously beside the baby's tiny wrapped body. Sarah was too exhausted to sit upright without assistance. Adrian lowered a cream cloth around the hospital bed. He used soft window light instead of bright equipment. The baby suddenly wrapped one hand around Daniel's finger. Sarah laughed and Daniel forgot to look afraid. The shutter clicked at the only perfect second. Then Adrian's portable printer suddenly stopped working. He opened the machine while the nervous parents waited. At last, the picture slowly emerged beneath his hand. It was the first image showing all three together. The nurse tied Adrian's blue ribbon around the finished frame. Every night, 4 station cleaners watched families leave with portraits. They polished floors, emptied bins, and disappeared before morning crowds. None had ever asked Adrian to photograph them. Then Rosa completed 30 years of working inside the station. Adrian closed his kiosk early and followed the crew downstairs. They stood awkwardly inside their plain work uniforms. Rosa said there was nothing special worth photographing. Adrian pointed the spotless station shining above them. He arranged their mops and brushes like ceremonial flags. The crew laughed so loudly the empty corridor echoed. Adrian captured one formal portrait and one joyful, untidy version. They chose the photograph where everyone was laughing. The picture soon hung proudly inside their small break room. After that, commuters began noticing and greeting the cleaners. Maya started visiting after school to learn camera basics. Marcus and Theo repaired the kiosk roof during a rainy weekend. Sarah and Daniel donated baby blankets to the nearby shelter. Rosa's crew kept Adrian's windows brighter than any shop nearby. Visitors left spare frames, battery, and film rolls. The free sunset portrait became a neighborhood ritual. Every finished frame carried the same narrow blue ribbon. But Adrian's vision had begun blurring around the edges. He turned the focus ring twice before faces became clear. At night, station lamps spread into glowing circles. A doctor showed him images of his weakening eyes. Treatment might help, but his sight could still continue fading. Adrian folded the report and told nobody at the station. He continued photographing every family that reached his door. Then one final portrait came out softer than intended. A small child said the blurry faces looked like stars. Adrian smiled, although his hands had begun trembling. That night, he packed the old camera into its case. He removed the final blue ribbon from the wooden spool. Then he placed his empty frame upon the waiting chair. Before sunrise, Adrian locked the kiosk and quietly disappeared. Passengers arrived to find the metal shutter completely closed. Maya discovered an eye clinic card beside the abandoned camera cloth. She finally understood why Adrian had refused to say goodbye. Instead of searching alone, she called everyone in the portraits. Each person returned carrying the image Adrian had preserved. Marcus and Theo built one enormous wooden frame together. Rosa's crew polished the entire station square before dawn. The hospital nurse hung warm lights above the empty chair. Sarah and Daniel placed a soft blanket across its back. Hundreds arranged their portraits into one glowing human mosaic. Adrian heard the gathering while walking near the station. Maya found him and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. He could see only warm shapes and moving patches of light. The old camera waited on a tripod with its timer ready. Adrian refused to sit while everyone remained outside the frame. Without discussion, the entire crowd moved behind his chair. Elena rested one gentle hand upon Adrian's shoulder. Marcus and Theo stood beside him, holding the giant frame. Baby Iris, now stronger, reached for the hanging blue ribbon. He had preserved thousands of families, then discovered he belonged to one. At midnight, every bus stop in the city suddenly filled. But no buses were running and nobody tried to leave. Hundreds stood beneath rain, holding small clocks and lanterns. They were waiting for one driver who believed time could care. His name was Samuel, and his final route had vanished. 1 month earlier, Samuel began each evening before sunset. He checked every mirror, light seat, and emergency handle. Then he placed an old brass clock above the dashboard. It always ran exactly 60 seconds slower than station time. Other drivers joked that Samuel's bus lived in yesterday. Samuel only smiled and started the final neighborhood route. At every stop, he waited one full extra minute. Some passengers complained when the doors remained open too long. Samuel watched the sidewalks instead of watching the clock. He knew late footsteps often belonged to worried people. One rainy evening, Eli ran toward the final stop. His red backpack bounced while his shoes splashed through puddles. The bus doors should have closed before he reached them. But Samuel saw the boy and quietly waited. Eli climbed aboard, breathing hard and fighting frightened tears. He had stayed late because his mother missed work. Without that bus, he would walk 4 dangerous miles alone. Samuel gave him a towel and the front seat. Then he called the hospital where Eli's mother worked. She answered, relieved that someone had found her son. Eli watched the rain slide across the Wormsbus window. For the first time that evening, he felt completely safe. At his stop, Samuel waited until the apartment light appeared. Eli waved from the doorway before Samuel continued driving. The next night, Eli brought a paper cup of cocoa. He left it beside Samuel's brass clock without explanation. Samuel drank it slowly, treating the gift like treasure. Several days later, Maya reached the hospital stop late. Her shift had lasted 14 hours without proper rest. She saw the bus pulling away and lowered her head. Samuel noticed her reflection and pressed the brake gently. The doors reopened and warm light spilled onto the pavement. Maya climbed aboard, too tired to offer a full smile. Samuel moved his coat onto the coldest empty seat. Then he lowered the lights so she could rest. Maya slept through 6 stops without anyone disturbing her. Passengers whispered and moved quietly around the exhausted nurse. Samuel woke her gently 1 stop before her home. She opened her eyes, confused by the sudden kindness. The next evening, Maya brought a small first aid box. She placed it beneath Samuel's seat for future passengers. Soon, the bus carried more than people between neighborhoods. It carried towels, tea bandages, umbrellas, and spare gloves. Then Jonah began boarding near the bakery after midnight. He always carried unsold bread inside 2 paper bags. At first, he sat alone behind the rear door. Samuel noticed him counting coins before buying a ticket. Some nights, Jonah had enough money for only 1 ride. Samuel quietly returned the fare through the change tray. Jonah protested, but Samuel pointed toward the bread bags. That night, the bread became everyone's ticket. Passengers shared warm rolls while rain covered the windows. A lonely bus slowly began feeling like a kitchen. Jonah returned nightly, bringing whatever the bakery could spare. Eli added napkins and Maya brought paper cups. An elderly passenger began carrying tea in a thermos. A student left pencils beside the front seat. A mechanic fixed the heater during 1 delayed stop. Nobody had planned it, but everyone began contributing. Samuel's extra minute gave strangers enough time to notice each other. People learned names they had ignored for years. They shared job leads, medicine, food, and safe walk. The final bus became the warmest room after midnight. Yet transport reports showed a completely different story. Samuel's route arrived late almost every single evening. Managers saw delays, low profits, and an aging vehicle. They never measured frightened children or exhausted nurses. Director Dana Grant boarded without announcing who she was. She carried a clipboard and watched Samuel carefully. At the first stop, Samuel waited after everyone boarded. Dana checked the empty pavement and frowned. At the next stop, he waited another full minute. A delivery worker appeared just before the doors closed. At another stop, no passenger came at all. Dana wrote down the delay without seeing its purpose. Samuel offered her tea, but she politely refused. She noticed the towels and food beneath several seats. To her, the bus looked untidy and inefficient. To the passengers, it felt protected and alive. The following morning, Dana delivered the closure notice. The final neighborhood route would end that Friday. Samuel read the paper and folded it very carefully. He did not argue, although his hands began trembling. That night, he told nobody what was coming. He still waited 60 seconds at every familiar stop. Eli noticed Samuel staring longer at the brass clock. Maya saw the closure paper hidden beside his back. Jonah understood before Samuel could explain anything. The passengers sat silently as the bus reached its depot. Samuel thanked them for making an old route meaningful. Then he switched off the lights for the final time. On Saturday night, Eli stood alone at his ute. Maya joined him carrying the first aid box. Jonah arrived with bread, followed by dozens of passengers. They decided to wait 1 minute for Samuel. Then each person called someone else from the route. Within an hour, every bus stop filled with people. Workers brought clocks, lanterns, umbrellas, and folding chairs. Families carried photographs of nights the bus brought them home. Dana arrived after receiving reports of blocked sidewalks. She expected anger but found hundreds waiting peacefully. Eli placed his cocoa cup beneath one glowing clock. Maya showed the supplies passengers had shared for years. Jonah handed Dana a warm roll from the final route. Then Samuel arrived, walking instead of driving. Every clock in the street stopped for 60 seconds. The silence felt larger than any protest Dana had heard. She noticed Samuel carrying the old brass dashboard clock. Dana recognized the tiny wing engraved behind its hands. It had belonged to her grandfather, the company's first driver. Young Samuel had once repaired his bus during a storm. Her grandfather gave him the clock with one promise: never measure a journey only by when it ends. Dana returned the route keys before the minute finished. And every stop kept 1 extra minute for whoever needed it. At midnight, every phone in the neighborhood began ringing together. But nobody was calling from inside their own homes. The sound came from one old booth beside the station. Inside it stood holding a single brass coin. She thought the city had finally forgotten what the booth meant. 1 month earlier, winter rain covered the station square. Every morning, Mira unlocked the old phone booth before sunrise. She cleaned the glass and polished the heavy black receiver. Then she placed several brass coins beneath the telephone. Anyone without money could use them without asking. Mira believed important words should never wait behind an empty pocket. Most commuters barely noticed the tiny bowl of coin. But Mira continued returning every morning with her small toolbox. She had kept the telephone working for nearly 30 years. One gray afternoon, Theo missed the final school bus. Rain covered his glasses and soaked his mustard coat. His blue backpack felt heavier with every passing minute. The station had emptied before he realized he was alone. Theo searched his pockets and found no phone or money. He tried to remain brave beneath the station clock. But the rain grew colder and his courage became smaller. Mira noticed him through the fogged phone booth glass. She opened the door and offered him a dry cloth. Theo whispered that nobody knew where he was. Mira placed one brass coin carefully into his hand. A tiny star had been scratched across its surface. She showed him how to lift the receiver slowly. Theo dialed his mother's number with trembling fingers. When her voice answered, his frightened shoulders finally relaxed. Mira waited outside, giving the boy privacy and dignity. 10 minutes later, Theo's mother arrived through the rain. She held him tightly beneath one wide blue umbrella. Theo returned the brass coin, but Mira shook her head. She told him to keep it for another difficult day. Sometimes safety begins with knowing somebody can still be reached. Several nights later, Luis stopped beside the booth after work. His delivery bicycle had broken 3 streets away. His hands were cold and his rented phone was dead. He needed to tell his manager before losing tomorrow's route. Luis found the bowl empty after a long, difficult day. Mira opened her purse and gave him her final coin. Luis promised to repay her when his wages arrived. Mira only pointed toward the telephone and smiled. He called his manager and explained the broken bicycle. The route was saved and repair help was sent. Luis returned the following morning carrying warm bread. He claimed the bakery had packed one loaf too many. Mira accepted it because kindness must sometimes receive kindness too. Soon, Luis began checking the booth during his deliveries. If the glass was dirty, he cleaned it quickly. If the coin bowl was empty, he added what he could. The old booth slowly became part of his daily route. Then Arthur began visiting every Sunday after sunset. Arthur always entered the booth but never dialed immediately. He would hold the receiver and stare at the numbers. His daughter lived across the country with her own family. They had not spoken since one painful argument. Mira never asked what happened between them. She simply left tea beside the booth each Sunday. One evening, Arthur finally placed a coin inside. He dialed one number, then almost hung up. Mira gently placed her hand against the glass. Arthur waited until a distant voice answered. He said only 3 words before tears appeared. "I miss you too." The call lasted nearly an hour after that. Arthur left smiling with a faded family photograph. The following Sunday, his daughter called the booth first. Mira answered and immediately handed Arthur the receiver. He laughed before speaking, something Mira had never heard. Sometimes connection returns when pride becomes quieter than loneliness. A teenage student named Nia discovered the booth during exams. Her family shared one small apartment with constant noise. She used the booth to call a volunteer tutor. Mira held an umbrella outside while Nia studied instructions. Night after night, the same distant tutor answered patiently. Nia filled a green notebook with careful diagrams and answered. One evening, the tutor could not call at the usual time. So Luis brought a small lamp and waited nearby. Theo brought sharpened pencils and a paper cup. Arthur brought biscuits and quietly tested her questions. Mira watched 4 strangers become a study team. Nia passed the exam 2 weeks later. She returned wearing the widest smile in the square. Then she placed several coins beneath the receiver. Those coins became calls for jobs, families, and second chances. People began leaving umbrellas, tea, bread, and bus cards nearby. The old booth became the smallest community room in the city. Miss Cole arrived carrying plans for station renovation. The booth would be removed before the month ended. Mira listened quietly while gripping her brass key. She tried explaining what happened there after dark. But invisible kindness looked like an empty box on paper. Miss Cole marked the booth for removal and walked away. Mira hid the notice beneath her cleaning cloths. She never told Theo, Luis, Arthur, or Nia. Instead, she polished the receiver more carefully each morning. On the final night, Mira filled the bowl with every coin. She left tea bread and one dry blanket inside. Then she locked the booth and carried her toolbox home. Before sunrise, workers surrounded it with wooden barriers. Theo arrived first and found the door sealed. Luis, Arthur, and Nia gathered beside him moments later. They found the removal notice through the wet glass. Theo lifted his star-marked coin and began knocking on doors. Luis carried the story through every delivery street. Arthur called everyone who had ever used the booth. Nia contacted students, workers, families, and newcomers. By midnight, hundreds filled the station square with telephones. Some carried old receivers, others carried coins and umbrellas. Each person had one story connected to the booth. Miss Cole returned stunned by the glowing crowd. Then Theo placed his star-marked coin into her hand. Miss Cole froze as an old memory returned. Decades earlier, she had been a lost child in snow. Young Mira had given her that same kind of coin. One phone call had reunited her with her frightened father. Miss Cole removed the barriers and returned Mira's brass key. The booth remained, now protected by the entire neighborhood. and every night one free coin waited beneath the receiver. In the coldest week of winter, scarves covered the entire street. Hundreds of neighbors were tying them to one iron fence. Behind that fence stood Alma's tiny closed yarn stall. She thought nobody would notice when it disappeared. But the whole street had come back for her. 1 month earlier, winter arrived much too fast. Every morning, Alma opened her little stall alone. It stood beside an old bus stop fence. She sold yarn, buttons, and handmade mittens. But she always made one thing free. Each morning, she hung scarves on the fence. Red scarves, blue scarves, and mustard scarves. No price tags ever touched the wool. Alma only smiled at passing strangers. She believed warmth should never wait for money. Most people thought the scarves were decoration. Then one freezing school morning, Ben stopped there. His small hands were red from cold. He had forgotten his scarf at home. He tried hiding his shaking hand. Alma noticed before he said a word. She lifted a mustard scarf from the fence. Ben stepped back, embarrassed and unsure. Alma wrapped the scarf around him gently. The boy's face softened almost immediately. He touched the scarf like treasure. Alma tucked the ends neatly into place. Ben offered one coin from his pocket. Alma closed his hand and shook her head. Then she pointed him toward school. Ben ran off warmer and taller somehow. That afternoon, he waved from across the street. The scarf still glowed against the gray cold. Sometimes kindness becomes visible from far away. 2 nights later, Nora arrived after hospital duty. Wind pushed hard against her tired shoulders. Her thin scarf was already soaked through. She stopped beside the fence and shivered. Alma stepped outside holding a deep blue scarf. Nora tried to refuse with a tired smile. Alma placed hot tea into her hands first. Then she draped the dry scarf over her shoulders. Nora closed her eyes for 1 second. It was the first warmth all day. Alma asked nothing and expected nothing. Nora left with tea, warmth, and quiet relief. The next evening, she came back. This time, she brought extra bandages and tea. Soon after, Kai arrived in the rain. His delivery route had kept him outside for hours. His orange jacket blocked wind, not winter. His neck and ears were painfully cold. Alma chose a long rust-red scarf. Kai laughed, saying he could not pay. Alma looped it twice around his neck. Then she tapped his delivery bag and smiled. Kai hurried away through freezing rain. But he looked back 3 times. The 3rd time, he lifted one grateful hand. A week later, he returned with bread. He said the bakery had leftovers. Alma knew it was chosen for her. She accepted it like a gift of honor. Then Thomas began appearing near sunset. He always sat at the far bus bench. He carried a framed photograph every evening. He rarely boarded any bus at all. Alma watched him from her stall quietly. One evening, the cold became too sharp. Thomas's hands trembled around the photograph. Alma walked over with a soft beige scarf. She draped it across his shoulders gently. Thomas stared at the scarf in surprise. Then he looked at the photograph. He said his wife used to knit. Alma sat beside him without speaking. After a long silence, Thomas smiled sadly. The bench no longer felt so empty. He returned every evening after that. Alma began bringing 2 paper cups of tea. Then Hannah arrived from another country. She stood near the fence reading bus map. Snow fell harder around her shoes. She looked lost and too proud to ask. Alma stepped outside with a teal scarf. Hannah pointed at the map helplessly. Alma could not speak Hannah's language, so she used gestures and warm hands. She wrapped the scarf around Hannah first. Then she drew the route in snow. Hannah finally understood and smiled with relief. The next day, she returned with an orange notebook. She had drawn Alma and the fence inside. Alma laughed and pinned the drawing nearby. Soon the fence held scarves and small gifts. Bread from Kai and flowers from Thomas appeared there. Ben tied a paper star to the rail. Nora left hand warmers in a basket. Hannah helped others read the bus map. The fence slowly became a place of welcome. But winter was not Alma's only problem. Her yarn supply was running dangerously low. Bills piled under the cash box unseen. The old stall roof leaked every night. Still, Alma kept hanging free scarves. Then Ms. Reed came with city paper. The fence and stall would be removed. A new shelter project would replace them. Alma listened quietly and nodded once. She hid the papers beneath folded yarn. She never told Ben or the others. Instead, she knitted later into the night. She finished every last piece of yarn. The final scarf was deep red. She hung it at the center rail. Then she locked the stall for the last time. The next morning, the fence stood empty and cold. Ben arrived first and froze in place. Nora, Kai, Thomas soon followed. They understood the street had lost its warmest heart. 30 neighbors ran through the storm toward one locked basement door. Behind that swollen wooden door, Evan was trapped completely alone. Most of the people outside barely even knew his name. Yet every one of them believed his life truly mattered. To understand why, we must return to the previous morning. Evan lived beneath the stairs of an aging apartment building. His tiny room contained nearly everything he still owned: a jacket, some tools, and one faded childhood photograph. That morning, he carefully counted the last coins in his jar. There was not enough money to survive another difficult week. Still, Evan wrapped his mustard yellow scarf around his neck. It was the one possession he would never consider selling. Years earlier, an unknown stranger had given it to him. Evan no longer remembered the stranger's face or voice. He only remembered how suddenly the world had felt safer. That small feeling quietly shaped the man Evan later became. He repaired broken objects at a tiny neighborhood workshop. But lately, fewer customers had been walking through the door. That morning, the owner closed the workshop for the final time. Without warning, Evan had lost his only source of income. He carried his tools home beneath a heavy gray sky. Each step felt more difficult than the one before it. Then he noticed Nora beside a damaged bus shelter. Her umbrella had turned completely inside out in the wind. The nearest safe building was several wet streets away. Evan looked at his umbrella and then looked at Nora. For him, the decision required almost no thought at all. He carefully placed the strong blue umbrella into her hands. Nora tried to refuse, pointing anxiously toward the cold rain. Evan only smiled and pulled his yellow scarf much tighter. Nora watched him disappear slowly down the shining wet street. Our minds remember people who make frightening moments feel smaller. Evan entered Mr. Chen's grocery store completely soaked and shivering. Mr. Chen offered him a towel and a cup of tea. Evan spent his final coins on bread and warm soup. It would be the only meal he could afford that day. Outside the store, he heard the sound of hunger. Mia sat beneath an awning, pretending she was perfectly fine. Her mother searched nearby shops, hoping to find temporary work. Mia smiled whenever Evan glanced gently in her direction. But hunger is difficult to hide from someone who knows it. Evan sat beside her and slowly opened his brown satchel. He divided the small loaf into two very unequal pieces. Then he quietly gave Mia the much larger half. She stared at the bread as though it were treasure. Evan also placed the warm bowl of soup into her hands. He claimed he had already eaten earlier at the workshop. Mia believed him, because true kindness often sounds completely ordinary. When Lena returned, she immediately understood what Evan had done. She thanked him, but Evan quickly changed the conversation. Quiet helpers rarely understand how many people are actually watching. Across the street, a delivery cart suddenly lost one wheel. Evan ignored his hunger and opened his old toolbox again. Within minutes, the damaged wheel was turning smoothly once more. The driver offered payment, but Evan politely refused the money. By afternoon, the steady rain had become much colder. His wet clothes clung heavily to his tired body. Even then, he stopped beside another familiar apartment doorway. Mr. Samuel's hallway lamp had stopped working once again. Evan repaired the broken lamp without waiting to be asked. Warm golden light returned to the lonely, narrow hallway. Samuel invited him inside, but Evan politely declined the offer. Sometimes lonely people offer company because they need it too. Evan finally reached his basement apartment shortly before sunset. Inside, the room felt colder than the street outside. His small heaters had stopped working during the previous night. He opened his toolbox, but his hands were already trembling. For the first time that day, Evan allowed himself to rest. Helping other people had not repaired his own painful problems. Kindness does not always create an immediate visible reward. Sometimes it leaves us wondering whether anybody even noticed. A small weather radio warned that a powerful storm was coming. Evan noticed rainwater collecting near the outside basement drain. If the drain stayed blocked, his entire room could flood. He returned outside carrying a shovel and a metal bucket. He worked alone while every nearby window slowly became dark. The storm suddenly knocked out power across the neighborhood. Wind pushed branches, paper, leaves, and mud toward the drain. Evan cleared one pile, but another immediately replaced it. Cold water was already rising around his soaked black shoes. Then a heavy branch crashed across the basement stairway. A violent gust slammed the wooden door shut behind him. Swollen by rain, the door could no longer be opened. Water began slipping underneath it and entering his tiny room. Evan shouted for help, but thunder swallowed every desperate word. His flashlight flickered weakly, then finally disappeared into darkness. For several seconds, he heard nothing except the rising water. Then someone suddenly struck the small window from outside. It was Mia, holding a tiny glowing battery-powered lantern. She recognized Evan because his yellow scarf glowed through the glass. Mia ran through the storm toward her mother and Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen remembered the soaked man who had shared his meal. The delivery worker remembered the stranger who repaired his cart. Samuel remembered the warm light returning to his lonely hallway. And Nora remembered the blue umbrella beside her front door. She opened that umbrella and stepped directly into the storm. Then she knocked urgently on every door along the street. She did not ask whether the neighbors personally knew Evan. She asked whether they could leave any person there alone. Within minutes, the empty street filled with glowing lanterns. People who had never spoken began working side by side. Mr. Chen organized a line to carry away the water. The delivery worker used his repaired cart to move the branch. Samuel wrapped warm blankets around the coldest rescue volunteers. Lena held the rope while Mia protected her small lantern. Nora stayed beside the window, speaking calmly to frightened Evan. Her voice reminded him that he was no longer alone. Together, the neighbors finally pulled the heavy branch aside. Several strong hands forced the swollen basement door wide open. Evan stepped outside into a wall of waiting faces. He could not understand why so many people had come. Then Mia placed her remaining piece of bread into his hands. Mr. Chen gave him a large bowl of steaming soup. Samuel welcomed everyone into his newly illuminated warm hallway. Small acts of kindness had created an invisible human network. Each person had received enough courage to help somebody else. Then Nora noticed the faded stitching on Evan's yellow scarf. Her late husband had sewn that same mark many years earlier. He was the stranger who once helped a frightened child. Kindness had returned, not as payment, but as a community. 40 strangers carried chairs through storm toward Mara's cafe. Inside, Mara believed nobody would arrive before closing forever. That empty chair had quietly changed many forgotten lives. Now those lives returned to protect the woman inside. The story began 1 week before the cafe died. Every morning, Mara opened her cafe before neighbors awakened. She cleaned tables as though an honored guest approached. At table 7, she always placed one extra chair. Beside it, she left soup for whoever needed kindness. But kindness could not protect her cafe from bills. For months, fewer customers entered through the old door. Shelves thinned faster than Mara's courage could replace them. Still, she refused removing the chair or waiting meal. That morning, soaked Noah stopped beneath her cafe awning. Noah checked his wallet, found nothing, then turned away. Mara opened the door and pointed toward that chair. She explained the meal had already been paid for. Noah ate slowly, fearing kindness might disappear too quickly. Mara gave him something equally precious, freedom from shame. When Noah thanked her, Mara requested absolutely nothing afterward. He left without money, but with his dignity restored. That afternoon, Lily studied outside because home felt overcrowded. Mara noticed her struggling and invited her toward warmth. The chair became a desk while soup became tea. Mara stayed late so Lily could finish important work. When Lily fell asleep, Mara covered her without noise. She never made the exhausted girl feel like inconvenience. Lily walked home believing her future still had space. Next morning, Arthur entered carrying silence heavier than Cain. He ordered tea, then stared at the opposite chair. Mara brought another cup and sat without difficult questions. Eventually, Arthur described the wife he missed every day. For once, his grief shared space with gentle laughter. He left grieving but no longer carrying everything alone. That evening, bicycle courier Maya stopped beneath pouring rain. Mara welcomed Maya before asking whether she could pay. The chair became shelter and the soup returned again. Carpenter Ben noticed her bicycle and offered skilled hands. One person's welcome gave someone else permission to help. Maya returned to work protected by people barely known. Next morning, she returned with bread from grateful bakers. Ben returned too, repairing shelves leaning for many years. Lily left pencils for whoever next needed the table. Arthur brought apples, claiming he owned far too many. Noah returned and asked whether dishes needed washing today. Soon, the man receiving soup was helping serve it. Mara watched their network grow while hiding deeper worries. After everyone left, the numbers still remained painfully insufficient. The landlord gave Mara 7 days to repay debt. She hid the warning before Noah noticed her fear. People who know hardship quickly recognize it within others. Noah offered his savings, but Mara gently refused them. Lily offered tutoring money. Mara returned every single coin. Arthur offered savings, but Mara protected his essential needs. Her kindness accepted help for others, never for herself. Winter rain exposed every weakness across the aging roof. Mara worked alone, moving tables away from leaking water. Above her, one wooden beam bent beneath heavy rain. She escaped before part of the ceiling finally collapsed. The room she protected for years became unsafe instantly. Repairs would cost more than Mara had ever saved. For once, even the empty chair offered no answer. The chair pulled Mara toward a rarely discussed memory. As a child, she watched warm strangers eat inside. An elderly waitress opened before young Mara walked away. She gave Mara soup, bread, and unquestioned shelter inside. Before leaving, the woman placed a brass key inside. She said safe rooms begin when someone opens them. Mara spent her whole life keeping that door open. Now she believed time had come to close forever. She locked the door, believing she failed everyone there. Then she walked away before neighbors saw her cry. Next morning, Noah found the cafe silent and locked. Lily arrived next and saw broken ceilings through glass. Arthur came for tea and found only worried faces. Maya and Ben arrived, expecting the familiar warm light. They realized none of them was Mara's only guest. Each described a different moment beside the same chair. Who would help the woman who quietly helped everyone? Maya carried Mara's story faster than any delivery before. Arthur explained how one shared cup softened his grief. Lily told students where hope kept lights burning late. Ben called every craftsperson still owing kindness somewhere else. By nightfall, 40 strangers carried chairs toward Mara's cafe. The landlord arrived, insisting the damaged building remain closed. Noah described the meal that had restored his dignity. Lily explained how the cafe protected her learning future. Arthur described when silence stopped feeling like punishment completely. Maya and Ben showed how kindness had multiplied itself. The landlord witnessed something money alone could never measure. He granted them 2 days to make everything safe. The room instantly filled with hands prepared for work. Ben led carpenters rebuilding every weakened section of roof. Electricians restored lights that welcomed countless lonely people inside. Lily and classmates covered water stains with fresh color. Noah repaired pipes, learning quickly from every willing neighbor. Maya carried supplies through relentless rain without stopping once. Arthur polished every cup like one treasured memory carefully. Local shops refilled shelves Mara had emptied for others. Children added stars where rain had broken through earlier. Even the landlord removed his coat and carried boards. All night, separate lives moved like one determined body. By sunrise, the cafe felt warmer than in years. Mara returned only to collect her few remaining belongings. For seconds, she believed she reached the wrong street. Then doors opened and familiar faces turned toward her. They carried out the chair that welcomed everyone. One by one, they revealed what that chair gave. Mara finally understood her kindness had never disappeared anywhere. The landlord returned her keys and welcomed her inside. The cafe rebuilt, no longer owned by one person. Everyone contributed something, so no giver carried everything alone. The empty chair remained ready for whoever arrived next. That evening, shy Ava paused outside the glowing window. Mara opened and pointed gently toward the waiting chair. This time, Mara was not keeping someone safe alone. Then Arthur noticed the brass key against Mara's apron. He recognized the star engraved by his late wife. The woman saving Mara was Arthur's beloved late wife. Kindness traveled through time, returning as a people-filled room. On winter's coldest night, hundreds carried lights toward library. Inside, Omar believed the final light had vanished forever. For years, one lamp waited for anyone without shelter. Now those guided by that light had returned together. The story began 1 month before anyone expected closure. Every evening, Omar worked after the librarians went home. He cleaned quietly, expecting someone important might return later. Before locking up, he always left one lamp glowing. Beside it, Omar left tea for anyone needing warmth. But the aging library was losing visitors, funding time. Even replacement bulbs became resources Omar counted extremely carefully. The library needed more, but kindness remained Omar's strength. That evening, Sophia and Leo waited beneath the awning. Sophia believed they had arrived too late for computers. Omar opened the side door, pointing toward the light. He welcomed them before asking why they came late. Sophia needed work. Leo needed somewhere peaceful for study. When the computer failed, Omar repaired its cable patiently. Sophia continued typing while Leo faced another problem alone. Omar transformed the difficult question into 3 simple objects. The answer appeared, but confidence mattered far more afterward. Near midnight, Sophia finally completed the application she feared. When she offered payment, Omar protected tomorrow's necessary money. They walked home carrying hope absent just hours earlier. Several nights later, Malik stopped after missing another address. He hid reading difficulties for years behind confident speed. Omar noticed the paper, asking nothing that might wound. Malik finally admitted some street names still defeated him. Omar answered with practical tools instead of pitying Malik. Together, they turned addresses into landmarks, colors, remembered turns. Night after night, Malik practiced following his final delivery. Then maps became words, and words became less frightening. The first route Malik read alone felt city-sized inside. For once, Malik reached a door without pretending understanding. He returned with bread, calling it merely accidental extra. Another evening brought June, carrying photographs in private silence. She visited annually since her husband's death changed everything. Omar placed 2 cups honoring someone alive through memory. June spoke while Omar pretended shelves still needed dusting. When her voice weakened, Omar sat and shared silence. Grief remained, but briefly stopped feeling completely lonely there. June left carrying the photograph with slightly less weight. Then Anna appeared outside after evening language classes ended. She feared entering, yet remained determined to keep learning. Omar opened the door without exposing her visible fear. Anna entered slowly, expecting the room might reject her. He began with pictures because understanding precedes spoken language. Books, chairs, windows, and cups slowly gained new sound. Leo joined Anna, using drawings whenever words became difficult. Malik shared lessons he had once feared requesting himself. June offered conversation slowly enough for courage to follow. One night, Anna wrote her first complete sentence alone. The room celebrated soft, protecting her fragile new confidence. Soon, Anna guided another newcomer through that uncertain doorway. Sophia returned, helping others complete forms she once feared. Malik created route guides for workers hiding similar struggles. June started tea circles where grief never whispered alone. Anna prepared picture lessons for newly arrived community members. After closing, the library grew warmer than during daytime. Omar watched everyone gather, hiding his growing exhaustion quietly. Then Ms. Vale arrived, carrying the city's final decision. The library would close, judged underused and prohibitively expensive. Omar described lives gathering there after official hours ended. But empty chairs seemed meaningless to attendance-based official measurements. The final closing date arrived at week's end officially. Omar hid the news, preserving everyone's final peaceful evenings. He memorized their faces while pretending adjusting the lamp. That night, Omar removed the note guiding him decades. He packed cups, keys, flashlight, and note together carefully. He switched off everything except the lamp he protected. For minutes, Omar sat where others had found courage. Then he extinguished the lamp and locked the door. Next evening, Sophia and Leo found only complete darkness. Malik, June, and Anna arrived carrying familiar evening offering. Anna discovered documents Omar had deliberately hidden from everyone. Sophia understood Omar had protected them from painful truth. Malik wondered how many lives passed beneath that light. June remembered anniversaries made survivable within that quiet room. Leo displayed schoolwork he once believed impossible to finish. Anna opened the notebook that began with pictures, fear. Sophia showed the job born from one late application. They realized Omar's lamp had reached far beyond them. Sophia began knocking on every door she could reach. Malik carried the story faster than any delivered package. Anna found newcomers who once entered through Omar's doorway. June shared how one quiet chair carried her grief. Leo asked every student to bring light and memory. By next night, the city seemed to carry stars. Hundreds crossed snow toward the library Omar believed unwanted. Ms. Vale expected closure but found one living city. Sophia described how one unlocked door protected two future. Malik showed patience transforming hidden shame into new independence. June explained the library made grief feel less exile. Anna showed language growing beneath Omar's patient evening light. Hundreds raised ordinary objects that had changed their lives. Vale understood its value, though repairs still remained necessary. Leo placed one lamp upon the steps and waited. One by one, City formed a path inside. Across town, Omar noticed the old library glowing again. When Omar arrived, hundreds turned toward him silently together. Leo returned the flashlight, guiding countless difficult evenings before. Sophia returned thermos, Malik cups, Anna the folded note. Omar unfolded the message carried throughout most of life. The note pulled him toward a storm decades earlier. A librarian once opened this side door for him. She taught Omar reading after everyone else went home. Before retiring, she gave one key and simple instruction. Vale recognized the librarian photographed as her own mother. Her mother taught Omar requesting one light remain on. Vale reopened the same door her mother opened before. The city entered together, proving the room still lived. Builders repaired roofs while electricians restored every failing light. Sophia created evening desks for people seeking work opportunities. Malik taught root reading to workers hiding similar struggles. June placed two cups wherever grief needed patient company. Anna welcomed newcomers with pictures before requesting spoken words. Leo became the patient helper he once needed himself. Vale created shared keys so no one carried everything. Omar returned the original lamp to its familiar place. The light stayed on for whoever arrived needing shelter.